Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
A common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. This is the Cats and Cosby Tunnel to Towers Weekend Special on 77 WABC.
President Trump and U.S. military continue to pound key targets in Iran as the Democrats play politics. Welcome to another special edition of Cats and Cosby. I am Rita Cosby, along with John Catsimatidis. We begin with Laura Trump, who says Trump derangement syndrome is on full display in the Democratic Party. Well, you guys, joining us now to talk about everything, and there's a lot of big stuff on our plates, of course, is the great Laura Trump. She is host of My View with Laura Trump on Saturdays, 9 o'clock on Fox News. And, Laura, I know there is so much to talk about. First, let's get to, can you believe there were 53 Democrats who couldn't even do, this is the Brian Mast resolution, where he said, just reaffirm essentially that Iran is a state sponsor of terrorism. It's not a trick question. Under Joe Biden, it was virtually unanimous, but they can't even condemn Iran at this moment. It doesn't mean any action. It's shocking, Laura.
Yeah, well, this is when you know, Rita, that their Trump derangement syndrome has reached fever pitch, and they're just a full lost cause. Whenever you are seeming to side with terrorists, which is, I guess, what the Democrats are doing at this point, all because President Trump and his allies in Congress are suggesting the very obvious that Iran is the number one state sponsor of terror anywhere in the world. We know all the proxies across the Middle East, how they spread out, how they infiltrate so much. Whenever you can't even say that, you really have reached an all-time low. But this is nothing new. I mean, look, when Khamenei was killed, you know, you had headlines that really kind of softened what kind of a guy he was. No different than when al-Baghdadi was killed in 2020, thanks to President Trump. They called him an austere religious scholar. This guy was an ISIS leader who was responsible for countless tortures, countless rapes, countless deaths in the most grotesque kind of way of people around the world. Absolutely disgusting that they would come out and call him an austere religious scholar and not call it for what it is. But this is the new Democrat Party, and pay attention, America, because these are the people who want you to put them back in those seats come November of this year. These are the people who think in 2028 that they should get the office of the President of the United States. It is disgraceful that they cannot come out and state the obvious and call a terrorist out when they see it and identify Iran as the number one state sponsor of terror around the world. Crazy.
Right. And Laura, wait till you hear this. This just coming, and we got a little bit of breaking news associated with this.
Breaking news, WABC.
So Zohran Mamdani's wife, Laura, the New York City First Lady, liked a tweet saying, I support it, just so people understand, where they celebrated, this is the day of Hamas's October 7th attack, of course, horrific. There were pictures of the murderous assault on Israel, horrible. And there were people in this tweet saying it's Palestinian resistance, essentially justifying it, if you will, the horrors that day. And she liked it. So, which a lot of people are saying, how could you like a tweet like that, endorsing it, saying it's a good thing? And Zohran Mamdani just came out, and he responded. And he says that post, which resurfaced because it was in 2023, of course, right after the attacks, Laura, it says the post where it showed his wife liking that tweet, essentially celebrating October 7th. Here's his line. My wife is the love of my life. She's a private person who has held no formal position on my campaign or in my city hall. In other words, he's not condemning it, or he's just saying she can say whatever she wants. She's a private citizen. What's your reaction, Laura?
Yeah, well, we know that whenever you marry someone, you understand who they are, and pretty standard to identify with their beliefs and believe what they do. That's just how it is, and everybody knows that. She here is seeming to celebrate what we saw happen on October 7th. And let me remind everyone, this is innocent women, children, elderly people slaughtered, raped, set on fire, kidnapped. And she thought it was acceptable in some way to go on and say, you know what, I'm going to go on social media and support these kind of actions, all because these individuals happened to be Jewish. This is not about being pro or anti-Israel. This is about being absolutely ghoulish, thinking that it is acceptable to cheer on acts of terrorism, which is exactly what that was. There are no two ways about it on October 7th. And it's a pretty weak statement, I'll say, from the mayor of New York City. We should expect better of our leaders around this country. But when you look at his actions in the past, when you look at the way anti-Semitism has seemed to kind of bubble up, and he hasn't really done much to distance himself from it, I guess maybe we shouldn't be surprised by this. But it's no wonder that Jewish New Yorkers have been absolutely petrified of this guy. If you can't come out and strongly condemn what happened on October 7th in Israel, then, it seems like you are siding with terrorists, which, as we just talked about, seems to be the new face of the Democrat Party.
Yeah, it's interesting because we're not hearing, well, maybe it was ill-advised or ill-timed. It's just essentially she has a right to feel how she feels, and it's okay.
Yeah, which is, I don't know how you are the mayor of a city that comprises the largest Jewish population in our country, and that is your answer to that. There should have been a better response to that. And quite frankly, she should come out herself and say, maybe I liked this tweet or this post on social media in error, and I can do better than that. And for all Jewish New Yorkers, I apologize. You got to do better than this. But again, this is kind of what we've come to expect from this party. And look, Zoran Mamdani, you look out in Seattle at the socialist mayor they have out there now. This is who they are, and this is what they want to normalize. And I think New Yorkers especially need to remember that. We never want to get in a bad place like this in New York again. We're trying to get New York City back on track. This is not the way, and what a shame to see something like this happen. Really disgusting.
Yeah, it is. Judge Weinberg.
Laura, good to talk to you again. You're absolutely right. In fact, he says he's a proud Democratic socialist. Democratic socialist agenda is from the river to the sea, which is total extermination of the state of Israel and the Jewish people in the state of Israel. It calls for the genocide and the wiping out of that community. That's where the Democratic socialists proudly hail. And he says he's a proud Democratic socialist.
Yeah. And isn't it a wonder that he got elected in the city of New York? I think that this speaks to the fact that there are a lot of people who really haven't bothered to educate themselves on what people stand for and what they believe. And we need to start educating ourselves on our elected leaders. I mean, it really does matter. And you see the ramifications of it whenever you look at the rise in anti-Semitism in especially a city like New York. But look around America. We have to have elected leaders who are going to condemn this, who are going to slap it down, and are going to stand up in the face of it, not encourage it from the river to the sea. I mean, my God, we don't know what that means, and that's absolutely atrocious. Yeah.
And Laura, I don't recall Mayor Mamdani actually condemning October 7th. So this was an ideal time for him to do it, and he didn't do it. So it's clear where he is. He's where his wife is on it.
Yeah, and this is why I think it's so important that we continue as Americans to come out and support the Jewish population in our country. We have to let these people know that they are 100% Americans, are part of our society, that they are welcomed everywhere, that we don't stand for this as a country. You're right. This is a great time for him to come out and let his voice be heard and say, you know what, those attacks should never have happened. I do not support that. Maybe we should remind him that that's something that he should be doing as the leader of New York City.
And Laura, meanwhile, in Washington, the Democrats are holding up funding for the Department of Homeland Security, which would be responsible, for instance, for seeking out sleeper cells and things like that might be dangerous at this time.
Yeah, well, and think about how important this is. My gosh, we all watched over the 4 years that Biden and our quote-unquote borders are Kamala Harris. What a joke that was. We're in charge of this country when they allowed tens of millions of illegal immigrants to pour in. Think about the ones who were on the terror watch list that we know about. But imagine how terrifying it is to know the ones that we never heard about, the ones we don't know about, but we know that these people got into our country during that time. Man, this would be a pretty ideal time if you're a terrorist looking to inflict the maximum kind of pain on the American people to do something really crazy. I think we've all been thinking about this for a long time. And I think, whenever people get desperate, they get backed into a corner, they're kind of willing to do anything. And the fact that we don't have full funding and the robust force of our entire Department of Homeland Security at a moment like this is really shameful. But we know who to thank for it. We know it's the Democrats who have, just like in the fall, held up funding for this. And why are they doing it? They're doing it because they don't want voter ID. They don't want proof of citizenship. They will not go along with the Save America Act. They don't want to see that pass. And we all have to ask ourselves why. It's because they want more illegals to come in this country. They want them to be able to vote because they know if we conduct elections fair and square, the ideals of Zoran Mamdani are not going to fly. The Democratic Socialists are not going to get elected in this country. The only way they can win, it seems like, is if they cheat right now. And it feels like to a lot of Americans, that might be the only reason you wouldn't want to get on board with something that 84% of the voting population feels is a good idea, to have voter ID and proof of citizenship all across this country.
Lara, you said it loud and clear. There's got to be no other reason. A good American citizen. All we want is an honest vote. And if you need ID to get on an airplane or get in an office building or whatever, you need ID to vote. I mean, it's plain and simple. I don't understand. The only reason is if they want to cheat.
Yeah, and by the way, John, I'm very proud to say that I got carded last night when I bought a beverage.
Wow! Oh, wow!
Yeah,
you're not 21
when you get to a certain age.
Congratulations!
You're not 21 yet.
Laura, I don't blame them. You look great.
I just turned 21, John, but they asked me for my ID, and in that moment, I thought, you know what? This is pretty standard, as you say, across America for so many different things. And of course, what is it that the Democrats have tried to argue? They say that if you ask someone for an ID, you are racist. And why is it? Because apparently, if you have a certain skin color, you don't have the ability to figure out how to get an ID. I can't think of a more racist thing to say than that. Every American, as a standard practice, has an ID. This isn't a tough thing, but we know why the Democrats, again, don't want to see this happen. It's because they don't want free, fair, and transparent elections. I'll tell you, I worked very hard in 2024 at the RNC to ensure that election was all on the up and up, and we've got to continue that because it's the foundation of our country.
Absolutely. And Laura, before we let you go, I know you got a big guest tomorrow. You have the Crown Prince, right? Tell us, obviously, Iran, big topic.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's top of mind for everybody right now. We're going to cover everything that's breaking in Iran. I'm going to be doing a live show tomorrow night to make sure that we bring everything to you as it's happening all across the Middle East and as it relates to America. But yes, I have the Crown Prince, Reza Pahlavi, whose family was exiled from Iran 47 years ago. He has said he wants to be the person who helps usher in a new era, that he wants to help transition his people who have been begging for freedom and liberation from this tyrannical regime. He wants to take them into a democratic society, and he wants to be the person to aid them on that. We're going to ask him all kinds of questions about what that looks like, what he's heard from inside Iran, what he's hearing from people all around the world. And I'm excited to talk to him tomorrow night, 9 p.m. I'll see everybody there.
You definitely will. We will all be tuning in because it's awesome.
I will definitely be watching you on Fox News, but I'll be listening to Cousin Brucey on WABC.
As always, John.
and Laura, congrats on getting carded. I'm jealous.
Oh, I know. I'll update you next time. Maybe there will be more.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much, Laura. We love you. Have a great show. Thank you. We can't wait to tune in.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories. This is the Cats Cosby Tunnel to Towers Weekend Special on 77 WABC.
McFarland, President Trump's deputy national security advisor in his first term, says Operation Epic Fury is the equivalent of the fall of the Berlin Wall. Here is Katie McFarland. And you guys, speaking of Iran, John, we have former Deputy National Security Advisor under President Trump, Katie McFarland. Katie, huge news today that Russia is providing intel to Iran, telling them where our U.S. carriers are and where U.S. troops are. This is, no surprise of the allegiance, but it sounds like they're really playing a big role potentially.
I'm not so concerned about this. I would be surprised if the Russians weren't doing something. I mean, they're certainly not helping Iran militarily. Maybe they're sharing some intelligence. A lot of that intelligence you can pick up on open sources about where ships are. But I'm not terribly concerned. In effect, Iran has been left homeless because China, who buys almost all of Iran's oil, they're not helping in any way. Russia, okay, so maybe they're sharing some intelligence. But again, I think that right now Iran is so isolated in the region. All the countries in the region have turned against Iran, in part because of Iran's stupidity of attacking them. But the foreign powers that were supporting Iran, remember, 6 months ago, that huge alliance of Iran and Russia and China and North Korea. Well, that's crumbled. It crumbled in Venezuela, and it certainly has crumbled now with Iran.
Yeah, what about China, too? It's interesting. We haven't heard too much about, of course, China, as you brought up, as sort of the other tentacle there. What do you think they may or may not be doing?
China is a big loser. The great thing about Donald Trump is he plays four-dimensional chess. Not even three-dimensional chess, four-dimensional chess, five-dimensional chess. So initially, what is this all about? The Iran war, stopping their nuclear program, stopping their intercontinental ballistic missile program. The next level of it is to prevent a continued war in the Middle East. But then there's another level of it, which is to secure the world's oil supply, now increasingly under United States, if not control, American domination, whether it's American energy, Venezuelan energy, our Gulf Arab partners, even though we don't control them, they're very close to us, and now potentially Iran. Now, who's the big loser in all of this? And that's the real fourth dimension, and that's China. China has invested heavily, a lot of money, a lot of effort in Iran and in Venezuela as sources of China's imported oil. China buys almost all of Iran's oil, legal or otherwise, and the same with Venezuela. That's all gone now. So China is left alone. China has to import energy to fund and cheap energy, discounted energy, to fund their manufacturing. And they certainly need to import it, even more exponentially import it, with the advent of artificial intelligence and quantum computing, which requires so much more energy.
KT, President Trump did the right thing. The reason for World War II, and Ed Cox is sitting here too, it was because that we cut Japan off from all oil. President Trump smartly made a statement the other day that China could have all the oil they want. We will supply them. I mean, they're going to pay regular price versus maybe buy more oil from Russia where they get that 30-40% discount.
Yeah, China needs the discount. That's how it stayed so competitive, is they got cheap energy from these other countries. So they're not getting that anymore. Now, they'll get all, at the end of the day, China because it needs energy, and Russia because it needs so much money to pay for the Ukraine war. China is going to end up owning most of Russia's energy supplies. I think they'll own eastern Siberia, a lot of the energy. So Russia will be nothing but pumping oil and natural gas, selling it at a discount to China, so China helps Russia pay for the Ukraine war. But at the end of the day, this is so many dimensions of what President Trump is doing. And then he's also extremely good at taking advantage of an opportunity that presents itself. So, for example, Iran cannot defend itself, right? There's no air defense system left. So America is really shooting fish in a barrel. Any bombers, any missiles, any drones going into Iran, there's no defense against them. We can shoot down and kill whatever we want, destroy whatever we want. They have no defense. What they do have, though, is retaliatory capability. They have a lot of missiles. They can shoot those missiles off. So instead of just shooting them off at Israel or the United States, they started shooting them off at the Gulf Arab countries, Abu Dhabi, UAE. So what do those countries do? I guess the Iranians thought that, well, if they can fire missiles into the Abu Dhabi hotels, Abu Dhabi will not join the fight. Just the opposite has happened. So all these countries have now rallied around and are fighting with Israel and the United States against Iran. But what I'm really excited about is and John, I'd love to hear John's take on this, is the insurance market, right? If all the ships that are going through the Strait of Hormuz have to be insured, if Lloyd's of London and the British are the main shipping insurer in the world. And if the Brits aren't doing it, and President Trump just said, we'll do it, we'll pay for it, we'll insure them. Is this a play for the United States to become now one of the major insurance capitals of the world?
What President Trump is doing is he's also escorting the cargo ships through the Strait of Hormuz, daring the terrorists to do something about it. And he'll go in there, and I guarantee that, I know President Trump, you know President Trump, he's going to go in there and level. If a single missile comes to any of those cargo ships, he will level an entire area, and those terrorists, you say, good night, Charlie.
The way we're now attacking them and destroying their missile sites is if they shoot off a missile, we can see it come out of the ground, that the hatch opens, the missile comes out, it goes on its way. We see the hatch opening, and then we can destroy that missile launcher. So that missile launcher doesn't get to shoot the second missile. So and that is, we are working our way down the target list. I was initially very concerned that what President Trump would do is just what people were encouraging, have a regime change, get rid of the Ayatollah, and then hope for the best. No. He's going in a biblical proportion. I mean, it's salt the earth. This is really raising everything. It's not just getting rid of the senior leadership in the military and in the political leadership. It is going after the command and control sites. They've sunk the Iranian Navy. It's going after the missile production plants. It's going after all the nuclear sites, the enrichment sites, the missile development factories. So they are really just leveling the place.
Yeah. And I like the fact that, I think Saudi Arabia is going to become almost the chairman of the board of all the Arab nations to help run Iran in the future and make sure that everything is done right.
If you could guess what would have happened after they got rid of Maduro in Venezuela, who would have thought that the United States is having the Secretary of Interior and other senior officials of the United States are standing with the former Maduro vice president, who's now the president, Delcy Rodriguez, and she's saying America's a great country. We're really looking forward to American investment and development of the Venezuelan oil fields. You would have thought that was nuts. I think that what's going to happen by the end of President Trump's term is he's going to go to Havana, a pro-American Cuba, Havana. I think he's going to go to Venezuela, a pro-American Venezuela, and I think he's also going to go to a pro-American Tehran.
Well, Cuba, any day now or any week now. I mean, they can't send Canadian Airlines to Cuba because they don't have any fuel to give them to leave. So their tourist business just fell apart.
So what's happening is apparently the leadership of Cuba, which I think has been dismissed by a lot of the American officials as just factotums. But Marco Rubio is having personal phone calls with the grandson of the nominal head of Cuba, Castro. But the Castro grandson is talking to Marco Rubio They're age contemporaries. I think the grandson may be 10 years younger. But they're speaking in Spanish. They're speaking in Cuban Spanish. And they're talking about what the prospects could be if the Cuban government throws off the shackles of the communist dictators.
KT,
and that, to me, is going to happen soon.
We're out of time. We love you. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk again real soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At Manhattan University, a graduate degree is not out of reach. You'll gain real-world skills, credentials employers value, and connections to New York City's top companies. Choose from their new Master of Science degrees in Healthcare Informatics, Digital Marketing and Analytics, Business Analytics, or Financial Analytics, all built around hands-on learning and industry partnerships. Graduate ready to lead, not just work. Take the next step at manhattan.edu/graduate. Manhattan University. Lead the future.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories. This is the Cats Cosby Tunnel to Towers Weekend Special on 77 WABC.
Our own Larry Kudlow, the nation's top economist, talks about insuring U.S. tankers in the Middle East, oil prices, and so much more. Here is Larry Kudlow. And we are back here on Cats and Cosby. And boy, oh boy, interesting times that we are living in. By the way, President Trump just came out a couple hours ago, you guys, and said that he is urging the Iranian military to surrender and without conditions, unconditional surrender. It sounds a lot like World War II, right?
Exactly right. That's what they did.
What do you think, Ed, when you hear that?
I think the military may, but the
Republican Guard.
The Republican Guard
won't. No.
Well, you guys, we have right now Larry Kudlow is joining us, of course, the host of Larry Kudlow on Saturday mornings, right, Joe?
Well, Saturday mornings, number one show on Saturday mornings between 10 o'clock and 1 o'clock. What's going on with the economy? Larry Kudlow, give us your explanation of what you think is going on.
The greatest, by the way, the greatest of all the unconditional surrender was U.S. Grant during the Civil War. He said it in 1864, even before Lincoln said it. And then he convinced Lincoln that it was the right thing because it put so much pressure on the Confederacy that they knew they had no way out. And if they didn't surrender unconditionally, they were all going to get slammed. That's just what Trump is doing. He's taking an option away from any of the Iranian people. By the way, I interviewed Scott Bessent this afternoon, and he kind of let slip, I think. It was a throwaway. It's not what we talked about, but it was a throwaway that tonight is going to be the biggest bombing of Iran of the entire war thus far.
Oh, wow. That's interesting, Larry.
I know we were talking about another matter that I want to talk about, oil prices, but he just kind of threw that out there toward the end that tonight was going to be the big one. And so I'm just saying, I don't know if that has anything to do with daylight savings on Sunday, but I want to raise
go ahead, Larry, please.
With John Katzimatidis, who is a great oil man among his many skills. This is a great news, honest. The Development Finance Corporation, which used to be OPEC, is going to guarantee or re-guarantee the oil tankers, and they're going to principally do American oil tankers probably. But, they're replacing Lloyd's of London. The problem with oil prices is not really Iran. It's the insurance problem that's reflects war risk. And Lloyd's of London ripped up the contract. So you've got 120 super tankers sitting at the top of the Strait of Hormuz in various Persian Gulf alleys. And they're not coming down because they don't have any insurance. That's the biggest part of this. Now, the Development Corporation is going to do it, subject, to certain things, but they're going to get it done. And it'll happen soon. It was announced today. Scott Bessent is running it. We talked about it. I interviewed him, had kind of a special interview. Point number one. Point number two, as part of this deal, assuming CENTCOM okays, the Navy will accompany these tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. So I'm just saying, and, I'm not sure Scott really understood this. We don't have a supply problem. We have this financial problem. And if you get a string of oil tankers going through Hormuz, okay, to where they're supposed to go, it's going to take the edge off the rise in oil prices. Right now, the world oil market is oversupplied with oil. That's not the problem. The problem is insurance risk. And yes, there's this Iranian war risk, but you can't worry too much. I mean, Iran, whatever they say, they've never closed the Strait of Hormuz. Their Navy is, is sitting on the floor of the Persian Gulf. So they got a few motorboats that could shoot rifles at tankers, but that's all they got. I mean, so
Larry, I think what President Trump is doing is he's going to make sure those ships move through the Strait of Hormuz, he's going to dare any of the Houthis or the Hezbollah to dare them to try to hurt one of them, because he will level them straight to the ground.
I mean, it's a great play, and I'm telling you, it's going to crack oil prices. Now, they won't come back to 60 until the war is over, but they'll stop going up and might even come off some because of this. He will show that we can do this. I agree. It's a very important thing. I'm not even sure Scott Bessent fully understands. They're saying they're going to let China there's oil on the on the high seas, or they'll let China buy oil from Russia. That's not the point. That's not a supply. We're exporting so much liquid natural gas, LNG. The next three, we export as much as the next three countries do: China, Russia, and Saudi Arabia. We're doing almost 14 million barrels a day. So it's not a supply problem. It's an insurance problem, and it is a war problem to some extent.
And President Trump solved that problem.
I'm telling you, buy stocks and sell oil. Okay? Can I get the stock market for all the ballyhoo? 7 days worth. The Dow is off 3%, and the S&P is off 2%. That's it. I mean, if you look at these headlines from CNBC and these other morons, they all hate Trump, so they're trumping up all these things. You got to buy stocks and sell oil. Trust me, you heard it here.
I heard it there first. Now, Larry, you're on 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock tomorrow on Saturday morning. WABCRadio.com, on LarryKudlow.com. What are you going to talk about?
Well, I'm going to talk about this, but I got my lead guy after my riff. I got a great spook coming on to talk about Iran. He's just become my favorite spook. A
real CIA guy? A real one?
Well, John, they're all real. The question is, can you get them? I got me a spook, and he gets great ratings on the TV show, so we're going to put him on the radio.
It sounds good. It sounds good.
Bill O'Reilly says President Trump talked with him personally about wanting to negotiate with Iran and the use of force as a very last resort. Here is our own Bill O'Reilly.
And now we got Bill O'Reilly calling in, I understand. You want to bring him in?
Sure. We got Bill O'Reilly, of course, the great nonfiction author, great host. Bill, your thoughts about this historic, incredible moment?
Well, I wrote the book Confronting Evil with the Ayatollah on the cover. And the theme of the book is that you've got to deal with these evil people who murder at will. And if you don't, then you get worse atrocities, which is what we've seen. I don't know what the outcome is going to be as far as the Iranian government is concerned. That's impossible to know right now. What surprised me are a few things. Number one, the Iranian military is pretty much impotent. They can lob some missiles here and there, but they have no air force. They have no Navy. They have no capacity to really defend themselves. And for a nation of 90 million that's, aided by Russia and China, to have no defense capabilities at all, that's pretty stunning. And, they are bellicose. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Well, they're not going to do anything because they can't. If they could, they already would have done it. So that's number one. And then back home, it's the usual suspects. Kamala Harris caught my eye. Did you hear what she said?
Yes, I did. Go ahead, Bill.
Okay. So she said that all Americans should condemn this action. And I'm sitting there going, well, under 4 years under Biden, you're vice president. I'm searching now to try to find out if she had made one statement about Iran in 4 years. She didn't make any statements about the open border. And so I'm going, under your watch, this nation killed hundreds of thousands of people. And what are you talking about? Your appeasement and negotiations failed. They failed. And you remember that began under John Kerry and Barack Obama, where they, United States unfroze billions of dollars, went into the mullahs, and the mullahs turned around and gave a lot of that money to Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis to kill people. That's what happened.
Yep.
So the two previous administrations botched it entirely. And then during Trump's first one, he had to wipe out ISIS, and he got Soleimani, the head of the Revolutionary Guards, got him. Okay, so at least he was in the game. But the Biden-Harris administration wasn't even there. And then you listen to the director of the United Nations, who condemned the action and said, well, negotiation. Well, how long are you going to negotiate with these people? In 1979, this started. And this guy's, negotiations. That's basically cowardice. You know what that is. And then the Pope, and he's the only one I give a pass to, because his job is to save lives. I mean, that's his job, not to be a political person. But the Pope comes out and says, well, we have to have constructive conversation. Look, the mullahs just killed, and my number is 40,000 of their own people in the last week. Did the Pope miss that? That's 40,000 human beings that are dead because their own government killed them. So it doesn't stack up. And this is going to be another horrendous defeat after the smoke clears, pardon the pun, for the Democratic Party, because all it does is object to every single thing President Trump does. So what's the Democratic Party's solution to this that's been going on for decades? They don't have a solution. There's nothing. Well, War Powers Act. The United States has not declared war since World War II. Did you know that? Vietnam, Korea, those were not declared wars. And every single federal court that's dealt with it has ruled if the president has the authority to protect the country if national security is in play. And when you have a rogue nation that's trying to develop a nuclear weapon, I think that's national security. Wouldn't everybody agree with that?
Everybody with common sense.
So the Democrats now find themselves objecting again. They object to the immigration roundup. They object to everything, but they have no solutions whatsoever. And that's got to hurt them in November.
Yeah, one of the other names, too, that stood out to me, Bill, was Senator Tim Kaine. He called it an invasion of Iran. Like, why are we doing this? To me, you're right. This rhetoric I find it really reprehensible at a time where the history is very clear about the Ayatollahs and what they have done.
Well, Kaine, who ran with Hillary Clinton as vice president, is a loon. But I'm surprised that the guy in Arizona who continues to do this stuff, he obviously wants to run for president, as does Kamala Harris. That's why she made the statement. But Kaine is way, way out there now. He's in Mandani territory now, Bernie Sanders territory. You haven't heard Bernie say a word at all. And I'm not quite sure why he's so silent. But the American people, initially, unfortunately, we have a lot of bubble people. And they don't know what's happening. They don't know Iran from Iraq or from Oman. They don't know anything. And when something like this happens, and the media, of course, spins it against Trump, which they did, then the people go, oh, it's got to be bad, it's got to be bad. But when it's laid out, and I do believe that there is going to be a change of government in Iran, because Trump and Netanyahu can't go back to the way it was. They can't. It's impossible. So something's got to change there, and it'll probably be along the Venezuelan model. They'll put some people in there that'll do what America wants them to do.
Yeah, and that's what's going to be interesting, like what comes next. That's the big issue.
That's an impossible question, but that's all the television media. What comes next? Well, we don't know.
Yeah, it's way too early.
Yeah, what we do know is that China hasn't said a word, and the reason is that they know it's a lost cause. Beijing knows it's a lost cause. So what they're trying to do is replace their oil stocks, which Trump will help them with. Putin said some stupid thing about violation of international law.
Oh, I know.
You know, it's a cartoon.
I saw that, Bill. I was laughing, too.
You know, they should cancel The Simpsons and put the Putins. That's a cartoon.
Judge Weinberg.
Bill, let me ask you your thoughts about the isolationist wing, the so-called base of the Republican Party, which is criticizing Trump for going into this military activity. They say he's betrayed his base. What are your thoughts about the isolationists amongst the Republicans?
Well, there are only 8 of them, I think. It's Tucker Carlson and 7 others, right?
I hope, but that's what it's limited to.
You know, that's the only thing that the far right and the far left have in common is the isolation. That's it.
And how do you stay an isolationist in a very dangerous world if you want to maintain national security and protect your people?
That's a good question that'll never be answered, because when you're an extremist, and that's what these people are, obviously, you don't have to answer the questions in your own mind. Extremists take up a cause, and I'm not going to assign motives to the far right isolationists because I don't know. I think they're all different. Some of them hate Jews. Some of them think Israel is the problem. You know, some of them are sympathetic to the Palestinians. In Ireland is a big crew, very sympathetic to the Palestinians. All socialist communists, by the way. The Irish who back Hamas, all of them are Marxists. Very interesting linkage there. But for American and the far right, there's not a collective groupthink like there is on the far left. Far left wants socialism. They want certain things. You don't have that on the far right. It's all different. And a lot of it is Israel is the problem in the world.
Well, Bill O'Reilly, I guess we take 1 hour at a time. I used to say 1 day at a time, but lately I'm saying 1 hour at a time.
1 minute with Trump.
Yeah.
Bill, thank you so much. And boy, what interesting times we're living in.
I want to make one more point for the WABC listeners that I haven't addressed this with. I talked to President Trump 3 weeks ago about this, and I had a lengthy conversation on the phone with him. And he did not want to do this military action. And one of the reasons that he called me was he wanted to say, what do you think I can get? What kind of a deal do you think I can get? He respects my opinion in these matters. And I said, I don't think you're going to get a deal with them because their whole identity is tied into hating America and Israel. And if they make a deal, they look weak. And so I don't think you're going to be. He goes, well, I got to try. And I said, yes, absolutely.
Because what they're doing right now is the Iranians traditionally delay. Mm-hmm. Hopefully that they'll get a Democratic Congress in November and they can do whatever they want to do again. And that's traditionally that's what they're doing right now.
Right. Well, there was intel that came out that said they were really feverishly working on a low-level nuclear device. That's what got his attention, Trump's attention. And that, I mean, it's all classified. I can't back it up, but I know that there was a lab inside Iran that was really working around the clock to get this thing operational. And once that intel was delivered to President Trump, then it became urgent. And that's what happened. Because a low level, you could take out a half a city with that.
Yeah, and they would use it. That's the frightening
That's
thing.
the problem. That's 100%. Why President Trump said, no way are we ever going to allow them to get a nuclear weapon.
And listen, I commend him for trying, Bill. You know, I commend him for, looking at negotiations.
I can say, listen, absolutely, he did not want to unleash the military. He wanted, just like Maduro, the same thing. Told Maduro, you take your $200 million and your family, get the deuce out of there.
Yeah, go to Moscow. He'd be celebrating in Moscow. All he had to do is split the $200 million with Putin.
Yeah, and Maduro gave him the finger, and he'll never see a light of freedom again.
Yes.
And I guess the mullahs are conversing with Allah even as we speak.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Bill O'Reilly.
Thank you, Bill.
God bless you.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for your common sense.
This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
A common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. This is the Cats Cosby Tunnel to Towers Weekend Special on 77 WABC.
Congressman Jim Jordan says it's time to put an end to sanctuary cities. Here is Congressman Jim Jordan.
All right. With us today is Jim Jordan, the chairman
of the House Judiciary.
And,
we love that.
He knows what's going on in Judiciary. Well, Mr. Chairman, give us an update. What the heck is going on?
Well, we had a big markup today on this sanctuary city bill, which would stop this crazy practice. So think about this: 18 cities, 11 states, 3 counties, the District of Columbia. Are in what's called sanctuary jurisdictions, but the population of those, because they're big cities and they're big blue states, it's almost a third of the country lives in a jurisdiction where left-wing political leaders, if you can use the term leader, left-wing political folks put in place policies that say local law enforcement can't work with federal law enforcement. So we passed legislation today to stop that. Good bill. And understand, again, what happens is you'll have someone who's here illegally. They commit some or charged with some crime. They're in custody. ICE will send, federal law enforcement will send what's called a detainer to the local jail, to the local detention center, and say, hey, if you're going to release this individual, give us a heads up. Just call us and we'll come apprehend them. We'll come get them at the jail versus having to go do it in the street. And last year, 17,864 times a sanctuary jurisdiction would not do that. They instead released that same individual to the street and made ICE go round them up on the street. That is how stupid this policy is.
And how many crimes did those 17,000 people commit, and how many people did they hurt?
Great point. Several. We think thousands. We don't have an exact number, but we think thousands of those individuals went out and then committed some crime and harmed someone. And in our bill, we create a private right of action and say, if that happened to you or to someone in your family, you can bring a cause of action against the government that allowed that person to be released and then caused you harm.
How about being able to what some of the people are trying to do to the police department, make them personally responsible? Well, why don't we reverse it on them and make them personally responsible? If a judge lets somebody out that shouldn't be let out and goes out and kills somebody, then that judge should be responsible.
Well, the judge in Milwaukee from last year. The judge who let the bad guy go out the back door when ICE was coming in the front door to apprehend them, that judge is facing criminal prosecution for that action.
Yeah, she helped him.
Exactly.
Yeah, we have Judge Weinberg with us here. He's going to, let's see if he defends.
A real judge.
Yeah, true judge.
Mr. Shamer, good to talk to you again.
Good to be with you, Judge.
So I agree sanctuary cities are bad public policy. They're dangerous. They're against public safety. I also believe they're absolutely, positively unconstitutional. But the question I have for you, after it gets through the House, and I'm confident you'll be able to shepherd this through the House of Representatives, what's the likelihood of success in the Senate that pass this law?
Yeah, we will see. I do think, again, when you think about the fact that slightly over 2/3 of the country aren't in a sanctuary jurisdiction, local law enforcement is happy to, when asked by ICE to just give them a heads up, they're happy to do that. I mean, local law enforcement works with federal law enforcement all the time on so many matters, and many places will set up what's called a 287G agreement where they will agree at the local level, we are going to assist ICE. We have a working relationship, a good agreement where we will assist you in this, with dealing with detainers and a host of other things. So I would hope, but, this is the Senate, and right now there's a bill over there that says you should be a citizen if you're going to vote, and you should show photo ID if you're going to vote, and that doesn't seem to be able to get 60 votes in the Senate, so we'll just have to wait and see.
Chairman Jim Jordan, one of the things we had on yesterday, Senator James Langford, he had a great line where he said, sadly, that the Democrats hate ICE more than they hate Iran. I mean, it really is. I can't even imagine what you guys are dealing with. When you have folks there they seem more concerned whether ICE has a mask on or not, versus the mullahs.
Yeah, I mean, look, the tragedies that happened in Minnesota were just that, and we never want those kind of things to take place. But this environment that's been created in sanctuary jurisdictions where and the rhetoric from the left. I mean, and I think it's think about ICE agents. They've been doxxed, they've been tracked, they've been sworn at, they've been screamed at, they've been spit on, they've been injured, they've had death threats to them, death threats to their family. All that's happened to them, and yet the Democrats say, "Oh no, but we still don't want local law enforcement simply honoring a detainer notice from the federal government. No, we don't want you to do that." It makes it's literally one of the dumbest policies I have ever seen, but that's today's left.
Rita, Tony Carbonetti.
I think 90% of the time now when you ask these questions, I'm going to give you the same answer. You people are crazy. I mean, he was so right when he said that. Your thinking is so backwards if you believe that.
Right. Well, they couldn't stand up for the Medal of Honor recipients.
If you believe your first order of business is not to protect the American people, why are you there?
Yeah. And also, by the way, Chairman, too, yesterday you guys had that big hearing with Tim Walz. And Tim Walz did the Sergeant Schultz defense. He was like, I know nothing, and he was presented with such, I was watching your questioning. You were masterful, by the way. And you did a great job, but he was like, it wouldn't even admit to anything.
Well, the court took the unprecedented step of issuing a statement from the court, a press release from the court saying the governor is saying things that aren't false. They did this a couple years ago when the governor tried to mislead the taxpayers, mislead his constituents, and mislead the country on why they restarted this program that had been shut down because of all the concerns, the audits, the whistleblowers coming forward and said there's big problems here. They shut it down. They restarted, and the governor tried to blame it on the court, and the court issued a statement. So I think the underlying reason, of course, is why the governor did that, why he lied to his constituents, was because it was the politics. This was the Somali American voting bloc, a key voting bloc for the Democrats. They were threatening a racial discrimination lawsuit if they didn't restart the money, and they said, we're going to restart the money, but we're going to blame it on the court when that was not true.
And the other thing, when I watched part of the hearing as well, you made the point, when you're against fraud, how does that make you Islamophobic? I just don't understand.
No, it's if you don't let me steal from you, you're racist.
Right. I mean, it's absolutely preposterous. And how do they sit there with a straight face, taking an oath of office to protect and defend this country? The Attorney General Ellison, the Governor Walz. I mean, have they no shame, finally?
Yeah, well, the left, I think we've talked about this before. I always say the left has a template. The left will tell a lie. You can pick your lie, but the left will tell a lie. The big media, mainstream media, will report the lie. big tech will then amplify the lie. And when you tell the truth, they call you a racist. And that's the template used time and time again. But the good news is the American people aren't racist, and they've figured out the game the left is playing, and they just don't tolerate it anymore. And we're seeing that, I think, more and more, where people push back on all that.
Well, thank you for being the voice of reason and common sense, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Keep up the good work. Take care.
Baseball great Mark Teixeira of Yankees fame won a big primary in Texas, where he also played ball. Here is Mark Teixeira.
Well, there's so much breaking news, and we have one terrific show today. Rita, why don't you give us the breaking news?
Well, there's some big stuff that just came out from the White House, John. They've hit more than 2,000 targets in Iran. That's enormous success. President Trump says much more is coming. He also said they have sunk 17 Navy ships.
17? Is there any left?
That's the question. It doesn't look like it. And they also used a torpedo, a submarine launched a torpedo, and sunk another ship. It's the first time since World War II.
We also sunk a Iranian submarine.
Yeah, that's a biggie. That's a real biggie. And now
there's
the
an
Kurds.
aircraft carrier out there that belongs to Iran.
Yes. And
not for long.
Not for long. And the big news, you guys, that's just coming in is that the Kurds are launching a ground invasion of Iran, getting some supplies, according to reports from the CIA.
Well, stay tuned to this show, and we have a lot of additional information. We got General Teichert on. We have the ambassador calling in from
Tel Aviv, Michael Oren. That's going to be a biggie.
Yes. Let's go right now.
To Texas,
and we
right?
have another big winner. What song are we playing for them?
The stars at night are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas.
Well, with us right now is Mark Teixeira, a former Yankee, a Texas Ranger. We call him Texas, his nickname, a first baseman. I tell you, do you miss playing first base, Mark?
I miss hitting home runs, John. That's really the only thing I miss about playing baseball. It's been 10 years now since I've been retired, and pretty much every day I miss the feeling of hitting a home run. That was always a great event when you're a ball player.
When 60,000 people stand up in Yankee Stadium and they're clapping, how do you feel?
There's nothing better. The thrill of playing in New York and having, especially some of the winning teams that we had. We had a lot of great teams when I was playing in New York. The 2009 World Series obviously just jumps out at me as such an amazing season, and I'll never forget the crowds that year.
Now, I heard you hit a grand slam last night. You won 61% of the vote, and you came in number one, and people love you.
Well, when you run in a Republican primary, a seat that is as deep red as my seat is in Texas 21, it's an open seat. We had 12 people in this race, and most prognosticators would tell you, well, listen, Tex, there's 11 other candidates. You're probably gonna have to go to a runoff because you're not going to get to 50%. So I just, want to thank all the voters of the great state of Texas for getting me to 61%. It's a true team effort. I've got a great team, John. You know it takes teams to win, and we put together a great campaign so far, and just really happy with the result last night.
Well, if you need any help from New Yorkers, people still remember you well, and they love you in New York, and we're there to help you. And even if we have to move down for 2 days and vote for you.
I think Republicans love me in New York. I'm not sure how much the Democrats like me, but I mean, listen, John, I'm unapologetic in saying that conservative values work for America and liberal values don't.
Especially in Texas.
And there's no doubt. And that's one of the reasons that Texas is the greatest state in the nation right now. Our economy is humming. We have a budget surplus. So think of that, in today's day and age where many cities and many states are underwater with their budgets. We have a surplus because of conservative values, conservative policies, and we're going to keep that going.
And Mark, this is Rita Cosby. I'm a big Yankees fan, so I'm thrilled that you're with us. And also, you're running, it's in the Chip Roy seat, because Chip is going to run, right, for Attorney General there. So that's a big, big seat, which is a great seat. Also, talk about Homeland Security. One of the things that you've been, I think, so great is also talking about your love of this country. You played America's pastime, but you love this country, and you also care about the border, and that's a big issue, of course, with Texas.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, Rita, the reason that we live in the greatest country in the history of the world is because for 250 years, we had men and women in uniform that have protected our nation, and we need to support those who protect us. And that includes down at the border. And the fact that Democrats are withholding DHS funding right now. Now, I know ICE funding is still there because of the big, beautiful bill that got solidified, but you have Coast Guard, you have Secret Service, you have TSA, people all over this country that their job is to keep Americans safe are not being paid right now. And I'm always going to fight for our men and women in uniform, those who protect us. And I think it's tragic that the Democrats are continuing to use DHS as a pawn for some of their radical policies.
Well, Mark, before we let you go, how can people find out about it? Because, of course, this is very, very exciting.
Textforcongress.com. I ask everybody to go to my website, look at my issues. I'm an America First conservative. I love this country. I love what this country has done for me and my family. We have been so blessed. I got to play baseball for 14 years in the major leagues. I mean, how amazing is that? Only in America. And, I'm just going to fight to keep America strong and free.
Thank you so much. And we're there for you. New York is there for you. Texas is there for you. Everybody loves you. And you better win big, and you better make a difference in Washington.
I will, guys. Thanks for having me on. Let's do it again.
And everybody, thanks for joining us on this very special edition of Cats and Cosby. I'm Rita Cosby, along with John Catsimatidis. Have a great rest of your weekend.
This is Greg Kelly. Donate now to Toys for Tots, which works year-round. Go to toysfortots.org. Toys for Tots supports children in need throughout the year with programs like the Toys for Tots Literacy Program. Established in 2008, it has provided over 63 million books to disadvantaged children. The Toys for Tots Literacy Program is committed to providing disadvantaged children with direct access to books and educational resources that enhance their ability to read and communicate effectively. Go to toysfortots.org.